What is up, Nico Nation? Welcome back to the channel. Snap Count, that is our seasonal NFL news series where we highlight all the things surrounding NFL news. And today's a special day. Today is kind of a superlative type of day. It's the 2025 season recap. I am your host, Niko Chambers, Nico the Draft Guy. You can call me. Alongside me, as always, is my co-host, P Dunn. P Dunn, how we doing?
I'm good, bro. I know you did too. I had an absolute blast putting this together. This was so much fun going through these awards, a lot of superlatives you talking about. Like we've got an awesome show here. I'm really excited to get into all this. This one's going to be really, really fun.
That's the goal here on the YouTube, especially, is to keep that engagement going. And I think all you guys are going to have a lot of fun with this episode with us. We'll go straight into it. And the first thing to talk about the Draft Guys podcast. This is the first time we are on the YouTube announcing the Draft Guys podcast. You've seen kind of some new videos rolling in, some new posts. That's because we have fully gone digital in terms of the podcasts on Apple Music, Spotify, and YouTube, as you've seen. But really, on this podcast, we're really talking about the draft wholeheartedly into the scouting. And that's something that's a little bit different from the YouTube. You see great things on here, you see great graphics in a way, and all these different things. But on our podcast, that's a different story. We're just chopping it up. We're just two guys chopping it up, roundtable form. We're going to get creative. We're going to do so many different things. But you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's going to be a great thing. And obviously, we're going to record twice a week. So we will see you guys very soon. We will see you guys all the time. And you'll be listening to us hopefully every Tuesday and every weekend. So hopefully, if you didn't and haven't seen it, please stay tuned for our show and podcast, the Draft Guys podcast with Peyton and Nico. But we'll roll right into the content. And we'll talk about the biggest surprises from this year. It's been a great year. This has honestly been one of my favorite years ever covering the NFL, but ever watching it as a fan. It's been just parody. I don't even know what you call it. There's been no dynasties. There's been crazy things happening. We can't believe it. None of the teams that we thought would be in it are in it. It's unbelievable. But P Dunn, I want you to talk to me first, and then we'll go back and forth here. Biggest surprises from the season.
Yeah, I mean, just the first thing that popped into my mind when we were going through this is, what was looked at as a historical quarterback class last year with, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, all those guys. And for the most part, you actually saw step ups this year. You saw a much better year from Caleb Williams, a much, much better year from Drake May. Bo Nix had a really great year. But outside of Jaden Daniels having injuries, a lot of these quarterbacks you expect, that second year regression, right? You saw CJ Stroud in his second year, right? That's a sophomore slump. You see a lot of these quarterbacks that play really well as rookies don't play that well at second season. And instead of that, you actually saw a lot of ascension from a lot of these guys. A lot of these guys played better, and that's just something that was not on my bingo card coming into this year.
It's crazy to think that, as a Seattle Seahawks fan, I remember I was at practice when the free agency thing was kind of going on, and a lot of big moves were happening. And one of my buddies was on his phone right before practice, and he said, "Yo, the Seahawks just signed Sam Darnold," and I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. I know we just had moved on from Geno, and he was honestly the best signing left or best quarterback on the board, really. And I just didn't think it would be this good. I didn't think that the turnaround between Geno and Darnold would be, that separated as it's been. But to see Sam Darnold go from 14 wins for Minnesota to now 14 wins for the Seahawks with two playoff wins and a trip to the Super Bowl, I never in a million years would I have thought that this is what this season holds for us. And man, what a treat it's been. I mean, what a career revival. He's bringing hope to all the quarterbacks who kind of had rocky starts to their careers. And hopefully we can see even more revivals in the future.
Yeah, I mean, it's really crazy looking at what he's done. He's completely, revived. I mean, how many offseason free agency targets are we talking about? Like, oh, maybe he can do a Sam Darnold. Like, oh, maybe Mac Jones, maybe he can pull a Sam Darnold. Like, this is something we'll be talking about for the next 10, 15 years. And when that happens, we'll call it a Sam Darnold. Because look, Daniel Jones did it in the same season, and he's getting called a Sam Darnold. Like, what Sam Darnold done is awesome, and it's really great, and it's really cool to see a guy like that turn his career around. So moving into the Bears and Jags, this feels like a pretty obvious one, but going into the season, these were two teams that both had early first round picks, right? The Jags obviously really early in the drafts, Bears sitting there at 9 last year. They were not good teams last year. And for different reasons, they took both first-time head coaches, both younger quarterbacks that needed to take a step up, both did. And you saw these teams just completely get revitalized. These are two completely different programs in the way they were last year. You got that infusion of talent at the head coaching position. One, I think we all knew was going to work out with Ben Johnson, and one that a lot people were a lot more skeptical about with Liam Cohen and the Jags. And two young offensive minds that have really taken these teams and completely turned them around.
It's unbelievable. And let's talk about a guy who really turned around his team, Tyler Shuck. I mean, we were into the draft. I was not very high on Shuck. I know few people really were, but man, he took over after Rattler, started the first few games and then they sat him. And man, Tyler Shuck may be a franchise quarterback. And we just talked about Darnold giving hope. Tyler Shuck's giving hope for guys who are older coming through the draft. We know Bo Nix, we know Tyler Shuck, but man, like these older guys in the draft, the more experienced guys, maybe, that's the new wave in the NFL. But I really liked what he did for the Saints organization. And we may really have to look at them as contenders in terms of they don't got to worry about a quarterback anymore. They just have to revamp their offense, their defense, their team. But that's what the offseason's for. So really excited for the Tyler Shuck surprise. That was very pleasant to see.
Yeah, it's really interesting seeing like kind of the dichotomy of how people were very high on him and weren't. And he went to a situation where it wasn't looking good. That's a bad quarterback position to step into, right? And he went in there and he played really well. And I think the Saints have um are not only pleasantly surprised, I think they're really surprised and really excited about that. So good day to be a Saints fan, which is something you don't say very often. So good for that franchise. Going into another quarterback, which is kind of surprising the way that I think he's being talked about right now is Daniel Jones. And, he started off the year really hot. Obviously, that Colts team looked like the best team in the NFL for the first 8 weeks of the season. And um, that's not how he's getting talked about anymore. And I think there's a lot of people that are just kind of forgetting the way he played. Yes, he tore his Achilles. Like that's not fun, but that doesn't mean he's going to be a bad football player anymore, right? This is someone that went the route of sitting behind O'Connell in that offense and took some time there last year as the backup to Sam Darnold, funny enough, and played really well this season. It seems like these Shanahan, these O'Connells, that Shanahan tree, really, the McVays are kind of a hospital for these quarterbacks, and they get in there and they learn a lot. And I think Daniel Jones is going to be someone, I've heard talks of him to the Jets this offseason. If the Colts let him go, that would be an amazing fit for them as kind of a bridge quarterback. This is a guy that I think is probably a top 15, top 20 starter in the league right now and has played probably close to the top 15 range. And I don't think is getting talked about enough for how good of a season he had just because of the injury.
The Browns went off on a limb in their draft, and we were very high on their draft from the start. I think we ranked them top five based on just their return on interest and what they got. But man, after this season, after seeing yesterday and Schwessinger winning the Rookie of the Year, and just seeing their other picks, obviously you had the two quarterbacks, you had Gabriel, you had Shadur. But you can't forget about Judkins. You can't forget about Fannin. You can't forget about Mason Graham. Like there's studs all over the board. They didn't miss.
Yeah.
And they doubled up at positions. That's the crazy thing. They took multiple players at each position and they still hit on all of them. So man, this Browns team, like really young core, if they can figure out the quarterback situation, and I don't know where Deshaun stands in this, but kudos to them. If they got anything right this year, it was definitely in that draft class.
And to pivot off of that, like something that they got right, the Patriots we knew was going to have a home run, kind of what you're talking about with the Browns. We knew it was a good draft class, but we knew Vrabel was a good hire, right? I didn't think it would happen this fast. What they're doing is crazy. I think they had the most money. They did. They had the most money in free agency last year. They spent a lot of it and they had a really good draft class, right? But I mean, Will Campbell didn't play amazing this year. He played good. You're gonna have a good player in the future there, but he didn't play amazing. He was probably the fourth best tackle in the class the way he played last year, truthfully. And like I cannot believe that they are in the Super Bowl. I seriously can't. I cannot. It does not make any sense to me. I questioned them throughout the season. Yeah, there was that stat in like week 14, 15 that they had the same amount of wins over like above 500 teams as the Giants or something crazy like that. Like I was a big question. I had a big question mark on them, and they just keep proving me wrong. And they keep proving me wrong. I don't think they're going to prove me wrong this weekend, but They've been proving me wrong for a long time so far, and I have been very, very impressed with the way the Patriots have played.
If you told me that at a division would produce 12 or three 12-win teams, I would say you're crazy. That ended up being the NFC West this year. And man, I mean, cutthroat West Coast football all over again. Every game was a classic. Um, Three phenomenal coaches in McVay and Shanahan and McDonald. It's going to be really cool to see these guys because they're so young. Just continue the trajectory of just beating each other up every year. I'm so excited for that. That was a very pleasant surprise to see this year. We'll move into the disappointments of this year because every year has had disappointments, and I'll start it off really. I'm extremely disappointed that a division with a turnover of three out of the four head coaches, you saw Tomlin gone, you saw Harbaugh gone, obviously Stefanski gone, and all three of those coaches are better coaches than this guy who still has a job. And I don't know what they got to do. I don't know what they got to show to prove that he's not the guy, but it just proves that the management, man, the ownership group of the Cincinnati Bengals is really missing an opportunity, especially when you had 10 head coaching openings already and you had some great candidates on the board. A lot of those candidates, and we'll talk about them in a little bit. I bet you about seven, eight of those guys are better than him, fit for this team right now.
And part of what I'm going to get into is actually on the shoulders of Zach Taylor. Getting into the AFC as a whole, I was very disappointed this season with the way that it came out. This has been the side of football that has run football for a while now. With the Chiefs, with the Bengals, with the Ravens, so many of these teams that we've seen. Even the Bills have just been a top. I feel like when you talk about the five best programs over the last 5 years, like it's those four and then the Eagles, right? And so I think that is something that really let me down this year. I was expecting, I had a lot of expectations about the Chiefs coming into this year. That obviously did not work. And, Ravens struggle with some injuries. Harbaugh's out the door at this point. Bills really felt like they just had it all in front of them and just never really put it together. And just as a whole, you saw the Texans take a step up. We'll get into Stroud in a second. Like there's some teams that were some surprises. I think the Broncos played really well this year. Obviously, they're one of the best teams in football. But I think as a whole, it just wasn't as competitive as I was hoping it would be.
2025 Commanders, man. I mean, a year after, you shocked the world. I know they were 4-13, then they went to the NFC Championship. And then they had the down year again, man. And I thought that their roster was pretty strong, but just some guys just did not show up. I mean, you talk about Lattimore, it was just piss poor, awful. Their receiving core was not good this year. Obviously, you had Jaden get hurt. Their offensive line did not play well. Defense was just not good at all either. So really disappointed for them. I really thought that they had bigger things ahead.
Yeah, I mean, just to get into that, like even looking at Debo and Laramie Tunsil, the additions they made in the offseason, we talked about their rookie draft class, which actually played well, funny enough. It just was a very small draft class. I was more intrigued with what they did in free agency, and it didn't work. It's hard to do that when you have Marcus Mariota as your starter for such a long time, but truth be told, there was a lot more issues than just him. It makes you wonder if another disappointing season next year are the Commanders going to be another opening in the head coach spot? Is another head coach going to see that as a desirable spot with Jaden Daniels? I don't know. But another quarterback that we thought was going to be up and coming and has not played well as of late is CJ Stroud. You don't like to see it because this is a guy that a lot of people root for. I like CJ Stroud a lot. I think he's a good kid. Hasn't played well this year. And truthfully, there's not a whole bunch of excuses as to why you have what I think is probably a top 7 or 8 receiving core in the league. Very young with a lot of talent. Yes, the offensive line's bad. The running backs don't have big names, but they actually played well this year, especially behind a line that wasn't good. And CJ just never put it together. When we went it through our Super Bowl picks, I had the Texans going to the Super Bowl because I thought he would take a step up. We obviously saw a really big regression that was not a step up in their last playoff game of the year. It's going to be a long offseason for him. It's going to be a long offseason for Texans fans. He's getting a lot of hate right now. I don't think it's all deserved. I think he's still a good quarterback, but he's got a lot of work left to do for sure.
I was really disappointed. I honestly, I wasn't as high on him as you were, but Travis Hunter, I know he got hurt. I know he only played 7 games, but the numbers he had under 300 yards. He had very few touchdowns. And I don't know if it was the way they used him or he just didn't really get open, but I was just disappointed in kind of what I saw from him this year.
Yeah, it's frustrating. The thing we talked about before was grading him as a corner and a receiver separately. That's kind of how you have to treat him because I don't think that the corner receiver thing is going to work. And to their credit, they tried to do it, and guess what? It didn't work. That's why he's on this list. If they put him at corner, he would not be on this list. If they
I
put him
agreed.
strictly at receiver, he would not be on this list. And he's on this list because they tried to make a kid do too much, and here he is. Getting into the Eagles, I was very disappointed with them. This is a team that I think has a lot of internal struggles right now. The report as of yesterday is that the AJ Brown Eagles fiasco is probably going to be over soon. I could see him being a Patriot next year. I could see him being a Bill next year. I don't think he's going to be in an Eagles uniform. So that may be a calling card for them to get out, but you know, Saquon's getting old, man. Like Lane Johnson's getting old. Mailata's getting old. Like these are some there's a lot of moving pieces on this team that are going to need to be revamped. This is going to be a different Eagles team, I think, for the next few years. And with that being said, with looking into restructuring, is Jalen Hurts your guy that you're going to want to have on the other side of this restructuring? Is he the quarterback you're going to want to pin your franchise to? I know he won a Super Bowl, but I don't know if he's that guy. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how they go about this offseason and over the next few years as well.
A year ago today, they won the Super Bowl. It
Yeah.
doesn't make sense. Like
Yeah.
the regression, and
With
I
the
know
same
Eagles are
roster.
hard on them, but like, come on, the exact same roster, and it was just very, very piss poor. And something I think was piss poor was the Colts trade for Sauce Gardner because you know they were 8-1 when they made the trade, and then they ended up going 1-7 or
Yeah.
whatever number that they did,
Yeah.
and basically threw away the future for a cornerback who didn't even play well when he played, if he played, and I guess he's there for next year, and I guess he's there for the future. But when you give up premium draft capital, multiple number ones, number
Oh yeah.
two, and young receivers,
Yep.
young players, this point of return is just not good enough, and this is going to haunt the Colts in their development for a long time.
Yep. Getting into Marv, a guy that this is not in it. So the CJ Stroud conversation, right? There's a tone there that's like played really well as a rookie. I'm not sure how good of a quarterback he is right now. Do I still believe in him? Yeah, I believe in him. But there's a lot of like, I actually don't know how good of a football player you are. I know Marvin Harrison's a good football player. He's one of my favorite prospects I've ever graded. He was elite at Ohio State. Elite. Like he was incredible, right? I know he's still a good football player, but this season was disappointing from him. There was the separation grades were not great. There was flashes of really good stuff. I don't think he's gotten his feet underneath of him. Um, I would kill for the Chiefs to send over 2 second-round picks and snag him. I would kill for the Bills to send over 2 second-round picks and snag him. Like somebody that needs to receive the Patriots, pick him. Like someone needs to save this man from the mediocrity of the Arizona Cardinals because they're not winning anytime soon, and he has not proven to be someone that is going to benefit that organization. So you get a good quarterback around him.
He, ironically, was my rookie of the year he came into the league. And that'll take us into who won the rookie of the year this year. And I'm going to start off on a hot limb, and I'm just going to say they messed up the rookie of the year. Nicky Manwari, I know I'm a Seahawks fan, but he should have won Rookie of the Year. I stand by it. I think we both agree in a sense. And no fault to Schlesinger. He had a phenomenal year also. But I just feel like what Eamon Wari has done for this team, playing multiple positions, has led us to the Super Bowl. And seeing, the injury reports with him getting hurt had me a little scared. And I know that he's good to go. He's going to play. But this dude is the key to our defense. And I think personally he should have won Rookie of the Year. What do you think, Pete?
I do too. I think he was if you look at what a redraft would look like, I think he would be the first defensive player off the board, right? Maybe I'll do a quarter, but I think he would be second just because and that's crazy saying a safety above like even in that same conversation just because of how good he is, right? This is a top 3 safety, top 2 safety in the league right now, bar none.
It's
And
crazy.
that as a rookie is crazy. You could say, yeah, Schlesinger, I think he's a top five linebacker in the league right now. But his impact level, I don't think matches what Eman Warrior's done on that defense. And so I think you're right. Another one on the opposite side of the ball, I think Jackson Dart should have been rookie of the year. If not him, I think it should have been Tyler Shuck, right? I don't think T Mac is a top 10 football receiver in football right now. Do I think Dart's a top 10 quarterback? No, I don't, but I think he's a franchise quarterback. I think Shuck's a franchise quarterback. And I think that means more. Like, I think they're if you gave me two of these guys to have on my football team, like I would rather have Dart over T-Mac, right? I would rather have Eman Mori over Schlesinger. Like these are players I would rather have on my team. And when you look at who the best player was in football this year, like I think that's something you have to take into consideration. Getting in some of this other stuff, I think they nailed MVP. I was a little worried were going to give it to Drake May. Drake May's got a lot of time to win an MVP. He's going to win an MVP. Shocker. I don't know if anybody saw that coming. He's going to win an MVP, right? And Stafford deserved this one. He had an incredible season. He had a really great season. And so I'm glad that, May hasn't played great in these playoffs. I don't think he's earned that in these playoffs. Stafford's team lost, but I think he's played better in one game than May has throughout the entirety of the playoffs.
I think you're looking at two unanimous guys. In my opinion, you could argue Puka, you can argue CMC, but it's JSN. JSN was lights out this year. He should have won it. And Miles Garrett too, man. I mean, he was unanimous. What a year from him breaking that sack record. We had a little bit of a discrepancy with the comeback player. It ended up being McCaffrey. Why do you think it should have been Lawrence?
I think that, well, it depends on I think it's funny they include these in the same award. I think there should be an award for a player coming back from an injury that had the best year, right? And I think there's a player that resurrected his career, right? Sam Darnold is the first guy that comes into mind, but Sam Darnold also had a great year last year. Trevor Lawrence did not have a great year last year, and he hasn't had a great year for a while. And so I think he was the guy this year, led that Jags team along with Liam Cohen to a much, much, much better record. And just looking at a player coming into this season, like who needs a comeback, I think Trevor Lawrence had the biggest comeback out of any player in the league this year.
It ended up being your Bears boy for the protector of the year. We both picked Sewell. How do we feel about that?
I think he was the best offensive lineman in football. And in this award, I think that's who it goes to. That's just how I feel about it. Um, I think that who the best offensive line should get the best protector of the year award. And I guess that's up to opinion. I guess some people would feel different about it. I think he's the best offensive lineman in football.
Coin flip for these two guys, coach of the year. Definitely didn't miss with Vrabel. Can't complain about that. That'll move us in to the big
Oh yeah.
2026 head coaches, which every vacancy has been filled.
Yep.
Clint Kubiak is expected to take over as the Raiders head coach at the conclusion of obviously the Super Bowl window. But you look at our rankings and you look at who got what right and who got what wrong. And I'll start with you, P. Dunn. I want you to tell me who got something really wrong.
I think not only did the Browns fire who I think was the best head coach on the market in Kevin Stefanski, I think they really did not get a good new head coach to come in. And I think you made a mistake firing him, and I think you made a mistake with who you brought in. You can talk about getting an offensive mind paired to a whatever quarterback you're going to draft, whether it's Shador to develop him or you're going to draft a quarterback in this new class. I don't think that you even got the best offensive mind available, right? I think you'd rather have Kubiak. I think Mike McCarthy would have been a better developer of a young quarterback. I think there's a lot of guys here. Um, I feel a similar way about Joe Brady and the Bills. I don't think they should have fired McDermott, and I don't think they should have hired Joe Brady. Like it feels like there was almost some tension and like, oh crap, we shouldn't have fired him. Let's just hire the guy internal and try and keep the same culture. I think both of these were disaster hiring cycles. I think they were both really bad, and that's why they're at 9 and 10 for me.
I can't believe that McDermott was not hired at all. And I know he's
Yeah.
probably going to do a Vrabel and sit out a year or Pete Carroll and be an advisor, but it makes zero sense to me. I'm going to talk about a hire that I think they actually got right, and I think it's going to be Robert Saleh for the Titans.
Yeah.
And we look at the Jets experience, and we're going to know pretty soon because the Titans and the Jets are pretty similar franchises as of late, at least. And we're really going to know if if it was really Robert Saleh cannot be a head coach, or it was really the Jets. And I think it was just the Jets. I feel like this Robert Saleh hire is going to pair really well with the amount of cap that they have. He has a lot of influence from San Francisco to New York Giants or New York Jets. Sorry. He has a lot of influence on those players. He's going to bring guys in house in free agency, and he's going to draft well. And I feel like he can develop that defense. And that offense is kind of a sleeper offense. They're kind of starting to get up. They gotta, obviously fill the holes. But Cam Ward is the guy. They got
Yep,
the guy, so
for
they can
sure.
just build around him, and they can maybe do with this fourth place schedule. They can do what the Patriots did this year, what the Commanders did the year before, and what the Texans did the year before that. So I have a lot of hope for Robert Saleh.
There's a lot of coaches in this league you see take head coaching spots or sorry, there's a lot of coordinators that take head coaching spots and fail because they're just good coordinators. They're not great head coaches. I think Robert Saleh actually has the capability to be both. You saw him arguably the best defensive coordinator of football last year with the 49ers. He was fantastic in that role. And I think it's crazy because he was bad with the Jets, and I think the Titans are the worst franchise in football and as a management position. And I think it's could work. I think it could work. And so it's just echoing off of that. I really do. I like the hire, which sounds so funny because when it first came out, I was like, I don't know about that. Getting into Halfley, I want to talk about him for a second. This is a hire I really like. I really like him. I think he's a culture setter. I think he's someone that's going to come in, and I think that's what they wanted. I think the Dolphins organization knew, okay, McDaniel fit Miami with what the city wants. We're not going to win championships building that based off of the city, right? We're going to build championships developing a culture, changing the way we've done things. They saw there was a lot of internal turmoil with Tua, with Jalen, especially with Tyreek, the way that defense was performing. Like they needed someone to come in and reset. And I think they've got a guy that's going to come in and be able to reset that program.
I think the Ravens hit a home run with Jesse Minter. I
Yeah.
feel like it was time for Harbaugh to kind of trickle out the same way it was time, obviously for McCarthy to go. I mean, for Tomlin to come out and McCarthy to step in. I like both their hires really well. I think they
Yep.
fit their programs really well. Ironically, obviously they're rivals, but I really like what Jesse Minter is going to bring to this team. Um, Part of me wishes, all right, was it an offensive? I wish it was an offensive guy who was coming in, but I think for the Ravens and the defense, it's going to look good. I think Mike McCarthy is the best hire you could have hired outside of what you already had in Tomlin. So
Yeah.
I can't hate that. And then of course, I like the Kubiak thing. I'm interested to see what he does with the team. I feel like it's a fire sale, and Geno Smith's there, and I don't know what he's going to do, and I'm really interested to see what they do with him.
It's going to be interesting. I think it's funny to look at what the conversation we had with the Bills, and talking about how I don't like I think they fired a really good coach. And talking about that in obviously a negative way, I actually like the way the Ravens and Steelers attacked this offseason. I think that they made the right decisions for the franchise. And I think the Ravens have a roster that's ready to accept a new young coach, right? They're ready to develop a new young coach. The Ravens made the hire that the Steelers are going to make in 3 years. 3 years from now, the Steelers are going to go and they're going to hire Marcus Freeman, or they're going to hire some real ready young coach that's going to walk in there and then be developed. And Mike McCarthy, as funny as it is to say, like he's a fantastic bridge head coach. They're going to get him in. They're going to draft a quarterback next year. They're going to draft Arch Manning or CJ Carr, Julian Sayin, one of those quarterbacks in the next class. And he's going to develop them, and then someone else is going to come in and they're going to be really good for him. And from a we're crapping on the Bills and the owners organization level of this stuff. The Steelers nailed it. They do such a good job from the ownership level of the way they run an NFL franchise.
We're gonna have a lot of time to talk about John Harbaugh, who I think is the best head coaching hire of this cycle, but we'll talk about that at a different time. And we're gonna go into the Niko the draft guy, Peyton the draft guy honors, which is our new segment that we're doing, kind of captivating all the superlatives of this year and all the great things. And I'm gonna start it off with the first award category. It's gonna be the most chaotic team. And to no surprise, it's going to be the New York Jets. Just, I don't even know how to describe it. I thought 2 years ago Zach Wilson was the worst year I could have ever imagined. Then I thought the Aaron Rodgers year was the worst, and somehow they topped it. They didn't have
Yep.
an interception all season. Pete, you're on the clock.
Yeah, I mean, just I could echo so much about that. We could talk about the Jets for another 10 minutes just making fun of them. But my most chaotic team going into this was the Bears. I think every week you watch them was just you had no idea what you were going to get. Whether that's the chaotic of Caleb Williams at quarterback, who is about the highest ceiling in the league you can get. You see prime Mahomes on some plays, if not better. And then you see Zach Wilson on a couple, literally the very next play, you see a really bad Zach Wilson. And so from a play-by-play variance, a lot of it's on his shoulders. But this team was so fun to watch. I love that team. It was one of the most fun years I've had rooting for an NFL team.
Pete, we'll put you back on the clock here. Best offseason move.
Yeah. I think here, can you hit it? I think that Vrabel was by far the best hire this offseason. You could get into some sort of player personnel move. I don't think anything is quantifiable to the what he did to that franchise in 1 year. It was crazy what he's gone. We talked about before. I could talk about it more, but just to for the sake of time, I think that was easily the best offseason move.
I'm going to go with the Seahawks firing their offensive coordinator after going 10-7 and hiring one who got you to 14 wins. It's going to be Clint Kubiak. There's a reason why he's getting a head coaching gig.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. I believe that was the most sleeper and best offseason move for in the entire NFL. I'll move to the scriptwriters award, and it's got to go to the Seahawks Rams 3 game set that we saw. Unbelievable. I mean, just the amount of yards between them. They're separated by 1 yard. They're separated by 2 points. And then we got a masterclass to finish it off in the playoffs. Great, unbelievable series. I'm so excited to watch next year. What you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Sam Darnold. This feels like it's out of a movie, what has happened with him. Like, I feel like you're sitting down, you've got your popcorn ready, and you're watching this story of this really hot shot quarterback out of California, comes up, fails in the league, fails again, and then has a whole resurgence. And what has happened with him and with his story has, script writers, like it's literally straight out of a movie. It's been incredible.
Unbelievable. Pete, on back to you. We were so wrong. Take roll the clip.
I think the Chiefs get hot at the right time, like I talked about, and I think they win the championship. And I cannot believe that it is a hot take to say that the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl. But here we are. I think that they're going to get hot. I think that that team knows how to win. I think they will win. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I was talking about. I thought they were going to do something. I don't know what I was seeing. This is so embarrassing. They failed and failed and failed and failed again and continued to fail. And I was like, you know what? I see something there, and I was wrong. I was wrong. They were bad, and they got worse. Yeah, I definitely messed that one up.
Early season, I think it was the training camp episode. I told the whole world this. They should be starting Richardson. Daniel Jones is probably a good backup for what's going on here. He's more mobile than you would think, so he would fit into this offense a little bit better than a lot of people would have projected. The fact that you're having a competition like this with a guy you drafted 3 years ago, and was, at 4 overall, he was supposed to be the star of the combine and everything. This should be concerning. And I said it would be an abomination if Anthony Richardson cannot beat out Daniel Jones. And here we are. Daniel Jones just resurged his whole career. I apologize to you, Danny. I'm sorry. That was a terrible take. We'll move to the Oramaxer of the year. For me, it's the one and only JSN. I think he's literally the most likable receiver in the NFL. He's not a diva. He's just unreal. P Dunn?
What do they call him? The Emerald City Route Merchant? Is that what they
That
said?
Emerald City Route Artist.
Oh,
Love
yeah,
the
yeah.
nickname.
Yeah, yeah. How can you not just love Ben Johnson? Like, how can you not love this guy? He is so fun to root for. Like, watching him take this team that was this culture that was cooked by Eberflus, right? And everything that had encapsulated with his tenure. And you watch him and you literally, it's like holding a piece of paper and taking a flame and watching the whole thing go up. Like, it's gasoline on a fire is what he did. And it has been so much fun to watch.
It's been awesome. Put you back on the clock here, P Dunn.
Yeah, it had to be the Jets just fire sailing at when they did. That season was down the drain. Those were guys that were not going to contribute. and, getting first round picks. So it's the acquisition of first round picks. In the future, this was a team that needed to turn around. I'm not sure why they held on to Aaron Glenn. I wouldn't have done that, but the opportunity they have to build around whatever quarterback they get next is amazing because of the decisions they made.
I'm gonna go with Rashid Shaheed. He won us multiple games with just kick returning specialties. And you saw what he did in the playoffs to the Niners. There's no question. Very mediocre, honestly, from the deadline acquisitions who were on the board, who ended up getting scooped up. I'll move to the Unc Award, the one and only Philip Rivers coming back. What a story! Unbelievable.
Yeah, Philip Rivers is like the cool uncle. Aaron Rodgers is the weird one. So that he's like the one that shows up to Thanksgiving and everybody's like, oh great, he's here. Like he's weird. I don't really know what he's still around for. But how can you not give him the award? He's the Unk of the Year for sure.
Crazy. The money bag bandit of the year.
Yeah, Dan Moore didn't deserve a fifth of that contract that he got from the Titans. No one, you could have drafted, I mean, just truth be told, you could have drafted Cam Williams in the fourth round last year. The kid out of Texas that I liked a lot, and I think he's sitting behind my lot on the Eagles right now. I think he would have been a better plug and play tackle than spending $100 million on Dan Moore in free agency. And he was bad for Cam Ward. He was bad on this line, and they have 3 more years, I think, of him on their team, at least 1 year or 2 years before they can get out on cap. So definitely the money bag bandit for me.
Millions and millions of dollars and draft capital because we'll look back at this trade forever and we'll look and see the fact that the Seahawks drafted Jalen Milroe with this pick. That is yet to be seen what will happen with that. But it's Geno Smith. The fact that Geno Smith, just the complete downgrade is unreal. And I know we have an award for the downgraders, and it's not going to be him, but it honestly should be him because he went from literally who right now is about to be the best team in football to the worst team in the number one pick. And they're about to draft Fernando Mendoza. And I don't know what they're going to do with this guy.
Yeah, I don't either.
Unbelievable to
They
see.
can't get out of that contract anytime soon.
All right, now moving to the Hard Knocks hopefuls. And what this award basically means is this is a team that we would like to see on the show, NFL Hard Knocks. Now, I'm going to start it off, and I just talked about them previously. I like the Tennessee Titans. They have a lot of cap, new head coach who's been around, and a young quarterback. And I'm super excited, and I hope that Hard Knocks reaches out to them and we can see them.
Yeah, somebody else that I think needs a culture reset the way that the Titans do is the Dolphins. And I'm really hopeful that a lot with the Tua stuff, with the Ewers competition, with the Tyreek stuff, with the Waddle stuff, like the defense, whoever they're going to bring in this draft, as well as the new coaching staff. I think that would be so much fun seeing them start the reset process.
It'd be really cool. We'll go to the downgrader award. Pete Dunn's on the clock, but this is what I was talking about. This is the player, the executive, the coach, anybody in the NFL family who just went from here to here this year. And Pete Dunn, we will start with you.
It wasn't really his fault. He was fired. But to say that going from the Ravens to the Giants is in a downgrade is just not really it's silly to say that. And so he's got some work to do. It's going to be really interesting to see how much of that Ravens success was based off of how good of a front office they had and how good the team building strategy was, or whether this is kind of a prove it moment for him because the team's not as good. It's a young team, talented, but they're not as good. And so it's kind of a prove it moment to see like, all right, like how good of a coach really are you?
It's crazy. I'm going to talk about somebody who I loved dearly when he played for my team. I have his jersey in my closet to this day. But ever since he departed in the way he did and the way he talked about the grass being greener,
Mm.
DK Metcalf, it isn't adding up because the grass isn't greener. The Seattle Seahawks are in the Super Bowl, and you couldn't even finish your last 2 games because you were too busy smacking people on the sidelines. Talk about a downgrade. He did nothing in that playoff game versus the Texans. I'm sorry, DK, but that's not a really good digital footprint that you're putting out there talking about the grass is greener because it's truly not. Well, I'm going to go into the bandwagon fan base of the year here. And for me, there's one answer because these guys wrecked us for years and years and years. And all of a sudden they dipped. And it was like, wow, we don't got to deal with them anymore until the unprecedented happens and we see them in the Super Bowl in a random year where they were 4-13 last year. And now they're here. And now we got to deal with them again. It's the Patriots fans, some of the worst fans in the league, some of the most annoying fans, but I'll give it to them. They're super passionate about their team.
Yeah, you didn't hear a lot from them over the last few years, and they got real loud all of a sudden. And everybody wants to jump on the Bears train. Everybody wants to be a Bears fan now. Not a lot of people wanted to be a Bears fan when, Eberflus was there. I think people like Justin Fields, but they weren't like wearing their Bears t-shirts or wearing their Bears hoodies or like all this stuff. Like they want to be Bears fans now when Caleb Williams is everywhere and Ben Johnson's the man. Like everybody wants to hop on now that everybody's having success. And so this was a no-brainer for me. I'm biased because I'm a Bears fan, but like this was a no-brainer for me.
Very, very easy. And this is our final award of the honors. And this is a special award, and I'll break it down for you here. This is the Draft Guys Take of the Year. So we've been covering, obviously, the NFL draft and obviously through this YouTube for about 10 months now. We're coming up on that 1 year anniversary. It was the day before the NFL draft, if you don't remember, when we recorded that 3 hour joint mock draft. But this Take of the Year is basically compiling what was something that we called before anybody believed it and before anybody could ever see it. And we're going to roll the clip right now for P Dunn's take.
I think Tomlin's done with the Steelers. I think that they will be ready to move on by the end of the season. I think that this is a regime that barely winning record hasn't been able to get over that hump. At some point, you need to move on. Yeah, this one was awesome. This was crazy. This was actually when the Steelers were pretty firm in a playoff run and were sitting atop of the division and had a lot of steam going with them. And I saw through this one. This was my hot take in that episode. I predicted he would be out by the end of the season or this off season, and he was. And we sniped that one from deep. That one was pretty sick.
That was a huge one. And so was this one. Roll the clip by a Seahawks fan. You could say that, but I think they won this draft. Crazy Eagles. He's just going to be a stud. I think you got the all-pro guard that you've been looking for years. Nick Emilwari. I couldn't believe the slide for him, especially after his combine. This is literally the perfect pick, reminiscent of Cam Chancellor.
They got a safety that could legit be the best safety in the league. Milrow's going to go sit behind Darnold for at least 2 years. That is exactly what he needed.
I'm very impressed by the Patriots. I had him as an A. You got an edge 7, wide receiver 10, interior 5, center 1. But I think the Patriots have a really good opportunity here to be second in this division and maybe make a run. Yeah, it correlates. Your NFL draft on a year-by-year basis is going to dictate kind of your standings and the placement. And we're sitting here a few days before the Super Bowl, and we're looking at two teams who nailed their drafts, number 1 and number 2 in my predictions. I was very high on both of these drafts. I think the Seahawks draft ended up panning out better than the Patriots draft did. But at the same time, Patriots nonetheless, they brought a group of stars in there, and look at what came from it. It's such a cool thing to see. And ironically, the most perfect segue, our Super Bowl prediction. Super Bowl is 48 hours away. Pete, I want you to start. Let's go game score.
Okay. Game score. I think these are the two best defenses in football. I think statistics would back up a lot of that. I think, maybe Texans. Let me rephrase. I think these are 2 of the 3 best defenses in football, right? And so, but I think this is definitely the best defense in football with the Seahawks. This is one of the best defenses we've seen over the last few years. I think this will be low scoring. I don't think the Patriots are going to be able to run the ball. I think the pass rush is going to be able to get pressure on May. And I think this is going to be low scoring on both sides. I'm going to go 21-17 as my final score.
I like that. I'm going to go a little bit bigger of a margin. I can totally see this game being something very similar to what we saw in Super Bowl 48, where the Seahawks just blew out their opponent in the Broncos. That would be Christmas for me if that happened. But I think it's going to ultimately be a 10-point game, and I'm going to give the edge to the Seahawks. I think it's going to be 24-14 Seahawks. And you said in your records, or sorry, your predictions there, what are you looking for in terms of what's the game plan for these guys? What needs to happen for the Patriots to win? And then we'll start with the Patriots.
Yeah, I think the Patriots have to be able to, if you're the Patriots, I think your job is to make um Cooper Kupp, Rashid Shaheed, and Sam Darnold beat you. I think your goal is to Christian Gonzalez, earn your contract, right? He's up for a contract this year. I heard somebody say it the other day, like, go earn your contract, like, slow down JSN, right? And stop the run. I think if you can do those two things, you're going to force Darnold on one half of the field, right, to use his arm and beat you. Now, I still think he can do that. I think that they put up enough points because I don't think these Patriots are going to be able to score on the Seahawks. So I think they can do that and still lose, but in a perfect situation for them on defense, that's the perfect script. Is the Seahawks Kenneth Walker gets nothing done. Charbonnet's out, right? I think he's out. Yeah. Charbonnet's out. Kenneth Walker can't do much on the ground, and JSN gets locked down by Christian Gonzalez. In a perfect world, that's the way the Patriots would draw it up.
I think the Seahawks match up super well. The only kryptonite in the room would be Sam Darnold's record versus the Patriots, which I can't tell you the amount of people who have, as a Seahawks fan, have sent that to me this week. I can't tell you the
It's
amount of
one and
people.
seven, right? 1-7.
I don't know what it is, but he's got 9 picks or some crazy
Oh my
number.
gosh.
I don't know what it is. I can't tell you the amount of people who have sent me the Nicky Manwari injury, trying to taunt me and get me off my game. I don't care. Like, we don't care. The Seahawks team does not care. It's printed on shirts. We do not care. They're gonna go after them, and I think the keys here. I think I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Kenneth Walker rushing touchdown. I think that's gonna happen. I think Cooper Kupp is gonna score. I don't know why. He's got something that he does really well in the Super Bowl, obviously, as a former Super Bowl MVP. And I think Sam Darnold is going to have a rushing touchdown. That's
Ooh.
my hot take. I think
Ooh.
it's going to be surprising. I think it's going to be something within the 5 yard line. I don't think he's going to crack open a big one, but I don't think it'll be on a tush push. I think it'll be on some RPO,
Okay.
and hopefully anything within the 5 yard line, they're running it because that needs to happen. We can't have a repeat, but I don't think we will. Pete, on what do you think Patriots score wise is going to look for those guys?
That's a good question. May is a lot more likely to run than than Darnold is. I would take his upside just because of they've had a lot of weather trouble, and I don't want to discount that. But the pass efficiency has not been great these playoffs, right? They haven't been able to do a lot through the air. Um, I would think that Ramondre Stevenson's going to get in the end zone. Um, but I mean, Seahawks statistically are so good against the run that I don't see them having a lot of success there. And that's not a good, we can't talk about this without me convincing myself that the 21-17 just doesn't, feels too close. I don't think this game is going to be that close. I think the Super Bowl was last round between the Rams and the Seahawks. And I don't know. Every time I keep talking about it, I think May runs. I think he gets for a touchdown. I think Stevenson gets in for a touchdown. Hot take. I don't think May throws a touchdown in this game. I don't think he throws a touchdown. I think he runs a touchdown. I think Stevenson runs a touchdown, and that's the two touchdowns they score on the day.
I think the Seahawks come out swinging, and I think it's going to be something similar to, yeah, it's going to get close at the end. But remember what the Eagles did to the Chiefs last year, and then the Chiefs came back in like 3 minutes and scored like three touchdowns. And that was looked at as a lot closer of a game than it really should have been when that was
Yeah.
a blowout on the Eagles' part. I think something similar here is brewing with Seattle. And I think that I'm going to go to the sacks. I think that I'm going to highlight three players who, if I was a better, I would pick them to get a sack. I think Derek Hall is going to get a sack. I think Nick Eamon is going to get a sack. And of course, I'm going to go Byron Murphy.
Okay.
What
I
about you and the Patriots?
I think Murphy might be um the most underrated defensive player in football right now. I think he's up there. Just a tangent I could go on. I would give me Milton Williams for the Patriots. I think he's more of a disruptor than I think a lot of people are giving him credit for. I think he's a huge part of why the Patriots have had such a great season. And I think he's gonna be that would be my prediction, the first name that comes to mind for the Patriots.
It's going to be an awesome one. Super Bowl 60. We're already 60 Super Bowls in. Unbelievable. What an episode. we thank you guys so much for tuning in, and definitely stay tuned because if the Seahawks do get it done on
Bro, I
Sunday,
want a
you are.
prediction. Give me a prediction. I need a prediction. I need to
I think
hear it
it's the
from your
Seahawks.
voice.
It's the
Yeah.
Seattle Seahawks.
Good.
No
There
doubt
you go.
about it. They're gonna
There you
win this Super
go.
Bowl, and I'm
That's what
gonna
I
be on
was
the
looking for.
podcast the next day, and I'm
There we
gonna let
go.
all y'all know about it.
That's what I was looking for.
That's right. And we're so excited. We hope to see you guys soon. Obviously, stay tuned. Obviously, the season is ending. So sad, but the season's really starting for us
Mhm.
because we are going through it. We're going free agency. We're going the draft. We have so many little pop-up events throughout that time, the combine and the pro days, and that's all great. But you gotta look at it with us through our lens. And we hope that you guys obviously subscribe to our channel here, but also the Draft Guys podcast, Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube podcasts. Just follow us on anything, all
Yep.
platforms, every single platform, so you don't miss a thing. It's been a great season, and we want to close the door on 2025. And we want to thank you all for making it such a special year for us, our first year, obviously, as
Yep.
content creators. And from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you. So, as always, we say so long, but stay tuned because we're not totally done yet. Thank you guys. Thank you, Pete. It's
Yep. This was great, man. One season down, one in the books, but like you said, we're just getting started. Draft season, here we come.
going to be awesome. Thank you guys so much.